extend my appreciation to all of you for your patience as we troubleshooted some technical difficulties, and welcome you back to Sha'ar's Yom Kippur services. We are very blessed this afternoon to have with us Tali Farhadian Weinstein for our Mincha study session. You know, the rabbis say study is also a form of prayer, and this is the devotion with which we bring ourselves into the afternoon service for Yom Kippur. Tali Farhadian Weinstein is the former general counsel of the Kings County District Attorney's Office in Brooklyn. She is also an adjunct professor of law, an adjunct professor of clinical law at NYU Law School, where she teaches criminal justice reform. Tali served in the United States Department of Justice from 2009 to 2017. For 6 years, she was an assistant United States attorney in the Eastern District Office of New York. Previously, Tali was counsel to the Attorney General of the United States, advising Attorney General Holder on a range of criminal law, immigration policy, and other issues,
Lisa,
and working closely with senior officials at the White House and executive agencies. Tali began her legal career as a law clerk for the Honorable Justice Sandra Day O'Connor at the Supreme Court of the United States, and for the Honorable Merrick Garland at the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. She has taught immigration law and policy at Columbia Law School and worked in private practice. Tali is a graduate of Yale College, was a Rhodes Scholar, and received her MPhil in Modern Middle East Studies from Oxford University. Tali comes from an extraordinary family with deep and proud roots in the Iranian Jewish tradition. And our families have a cherished friendship that goes back over 20 years. We have shared community, many important life cycle moments together, and other joyous occasions. I am so honored, Tali, that you're here on this sacred day to guide us through an exploration of midot, of personal and societal moral attributes that the world is crying out for us to renew. We sent out the source sheets for Tali's presentation this afternoon in the email for Yom Kippur. I hope you have downloaded them. And while we were hoping to be able to interact with Tali over the course of this shiur, unfortunately we're not able to, but we will enjoy Tali's presentation. Tali.
Okay, Shana Tova to the Sha'ar community. So I have to tell you that all I can see is myself, and I'm not getting any feedback. So I am just going to pray that a Yom Kippur miracle is happening, and that you can reach me out there and hear me out there. I was so looking forward to spending a little time with you, working through some of these texts that have been on my mind as I've been preparing myself for the high holidays. Dini has been a rabbi and a teacher to me for just decades. So it's really an honor to get to study here in her presence, which I believe myself to be right now. And I thank you for inviting me. Okay, so I'm going to try to proceed to try something I've not done before, which is to be a teacher without students, and to tell you a little bit about what I wanted to share with you today. So over the course of this summer, Rabbi Jason Rubenstein, who is the chaplain of the Slivka Center at Yale University, brought these texts to my attention because I had written something that he had read about my family's story about our immigration to the United States. And what I had said in that piece is that I was grappling as a person who has spent her life in law enforcement with knowing that the very first American that my family and I met when we arrived in America on Christmas Eve of 1979 was an airport immigration officer who inspected our papers to see if we ought to be admitted to the United States. And he chose to let us in, even though, according to the letter of the law, which is a kind of phrase that I'll come back to in the course of this talk, he didn't have to do that. We didn't have the right documents. We had tourist visas that were likely fake, and we obviously were not tourists. So even if they were real, we were likely misusing them. And we didn't express what we were really there to say, which is a claim for asylum. And so putting aside all those technical details, the bottom line is that he chose not to enforce the law to its maximum, but instead to exercise something that looked like mercy and to let us in. And that decision by this person that I don't know who was wearing the uniform of the law allowed my entire life to be possible. And so Jason said, let's look at some text together about the role of mercy in law enforcement. And what started as something of a personal journey in exploring these texts started to feel more urgent as we approached the high holidays in Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. First, because around us a presidential election is unfolding in which law and order has become a central theme, right? The president is talking about disorder that he sees, particularly in American cities, and he has said the answer is to enforce the law. Anyone who breaks the law should be arrested, he says, because when you enforce the law, order follows. And at the same time, we have seen throughout our country protests under the rubric of Black Lives Matters and others saying that no, it is law enforcement itself that has become an instrument of injustice. So what I thought we would try to do together this evening is use these rabbinic texts to try to move toward a theory of just law enforcement, which could help us to understand how we want God to enforce her law against us, and also how we think humans should judge one another and enforce the law against one another. And my framing question for all of you is this: if God's laws are perfect, as they must be because God put them into the world, why does our tradition furnish so many examples of God's mercy in the enforcement of her law? If mercy is something like a leavening or a leniency or a standing down from the robust application of the law, is there something wrong with God's law? And if so, what is it? And as for humans, the questions are somewhat less mysterious, but I think in their own way equally challenging. If we are not going to live in a maximalist society where every single law is enforced against every single person who breaks it every single time with the same level of intensity, and we know that what I've just described is not only undesirable but impossible, then how should we expect the people who have the power of the law, who can arrest, who can investigate, who can prosecute, to use their discretion? So we're going to go through 4 texts together today. The first 3 introduce the concept of mercy by contrasting it with other attributes that we associate with God. One text is going to link mercy to our ultimate inquiry, which is what I really want to spend our time on, which is what does it mean to go beyond or inside the law? So I believe that you all have a source sheet in front of you. And I'm going to start with the earliest source. This is from something called the Pesikta de Rav Kahana, which is a 5th century commentary on the Torah, which was organized around the Jewish calendar. Fragments of this were discovered in the Cairo Geniza. And the chapter in front of us is the chapter on Rosh Hashanah. And it describes the drama of Rosh Hashanah in a particular way. So I'm going to give you a minute to look at this. Yehuda bar Nachman opened in the name of Reish Lakish. And I won't read every sentence of it to you. I'll have you read it to yourselves. But I want you to bring your focus to the movement that God makes here. What happens to God when she hears the shofar blast? And as you know, in our tradition, the shofar blast is often compared to a human cry. So what happens when God hears a cry? God is sitting on the throne of judgment when this cry is heard. And a literal movement happens. God deserts the throne of judgment or law and moves onto the throne of mercy. And if you look at the last line, it says God is filled with mercy for them, for us, the people of Israel, and turns the attribute of justice into the attribute of mercy. At first blush, this seems, I think, like how we might ordinarily think about mercy, the way I set up the concept earlier, as a kind of leavening or a softening of the law. But look at the Hebrew. The word that is used to describe this transition from the attribute of judgment or the attribute of law to the attribute of mercy is hufach, vehufach. In other words, this means transformation, right? Or to change. So in other words, judgment is not put aside in favor of mercy. It becomes mercy. And for me, what is profound about this text is not that God can make this shift and bring out the mercy that is inherent and inside and a part of justice. It's that it's prompted by an encounter, that this only happens when the shofar blasts or when the cry is heard. And I want you to hold on to that idea of encounter as we contemplate the next text together. We're now going to turn to 3 Talmudic texts. So the first is from Bavli Sukkah, and it describes a play on words, right? So it says, why are the prayers of the righteous likened to a pitchfork? And it says that Isaac, it takes us to a biblical text, Isaac entreated the same verb, the same root as the verb pitchfork, the Lord for his wife because she was barren. And what happens is that his advocacy on behalf of Rebekah has the effect of a pitchfork. It turns something over in God. If you look at the text, and I'll give you a moment to reflect on it, his advocacy has the effect of transforming a different attribute into mercy. And this time it's the attribute of indifference, of achzariut, becomes rachmanut, becomes mercy. And I think that there is a connection here with the last way that we found mercy in the Pesikta de Rav Chana, where, think about the metaphor quite literally, the pitchfork overturns the grain like a farmer, flips over the field, and you find something underneath, and the thing that is underneath is mercy. So what is on the surface, a kind of indifference, or maybe we would say a hardness or a strictness in the decree, in this case the decree that Isaac's wife Rebekah should remain barren, is an illusion. Underneath it is the secret lining, is mercy. And what this passage introduces to me, which I think is so interesting, is the role of the supplicant, or I might even say the attorney. Someone advocating on behalf of another is forcing another encounter with God, which again has the effect of revealing that core concept of rachmanut, or mercy, that we are looking for and trying to give shape to. Let's look at our third passage. I can't help but think of Leonard Cohen when I look at this passage and that beautiful song, May It Be Your Will, which is a way that we so often talk to God. Here, God is talking to himself, herself. This is a prayer God gives herself. The question that this Talmudic passage poses is, what liturgy does God recite? And Rav Zutra Bartovia said, Rav said that this is God's prayer for herself. May it be my will that my mercy will overcome my anger. And may my mercy conquer my other attributes. And may I conduct myself toward my children with the attribute of mercy. And this is a key phrase. I want you to focus on it, please. And may I enter before them beyond the letter of the law. And then we hear it again. We hear the account of a Kohen Gadol, of a high priest, who says that when he went into the Kodesh Kedoshim and he met God sitting on the throne, he gave God a similar blessing, that it would be God's will that mercy would overcome anger, that mercy would prevail over other attributes, that God would treat God's children with mercy, and again enter before them beyond the letter of the law. So now mercy is being contrasted with the third thing, right? We had mercy contrasted in the first passage with judgment. In the second passage, it was contrasted with indifference. And here it is contrasted with anger. And we also have an interesting sort of characterization of God, right? A God that is complicated to herself, maybe even a problem to herself, has attributes which are not her preferred attributes. And when she's sitting in judgment, she asks for a blessing to do something which sounds like it might be hard to do. God is describing this as a difficult thing to do, which is to overcome the first impulse of anger and to lead with mercy. And this idea of exercising mercy is connected to this very strange phrase in the Hebrew, which is to enter lifnim meshurat hadin, which we usually translate as going beyond the letter of the law. But if we really focused on the literal meaning of the Hebrew words, we might translate it as something slightly different, which is going lifnim, inside the line of the law. I think that difference is quite important. Going beyond the letter of the law suggests surpassing or transcending the letter, or bringing in some kind of other source of judgment that, again, might leaven or lighten or soften the application of the law. And I think that's a perfectly legitimate reading, and I know that others read the text to say that there's some other source of knowledge that we have to have that acts as almost a counterforce to the law. But I think that this means something different, and I'm going to tell you why as we get to the next text, but let me preview that for you now. I think that this is introducing mercy as lying at the heart of the law, of going inside the law, of crossing the lines of its outer boundaries, is how I see that metaphor, of going inside. And I think that just as God wishes to go into this place in the application of the law, this should be our wish as well. Let's turn to the fourth text to unlock further what I mean by this. So this is a famous text from Bavli Bava Metzia. And Rabbi Yosef is first taking us through a biblical passage of things that we need to teach our kids, right? We need to teach them to visit the sick, to bury the dead. And then the last lesson that we need to impart is this very thing that we've been talking about, which is going inside or beyond the letter of the law. And then here comes the drama of this passage, and really the most shocking thing, really one of the most shocking parts of Talmud that I've ever encountered. We come to Rabbi Yochanan, and he offers the reason why Jerusalem, meaning Jewish sovereignty, was destroyed. A civilization was destroyed. It was, and I should pause and say, as many of you well know, our tradition gives all sorts of reasons for why Jerusalem may have been destroyed. Probably the most famous being sinat chinam, baseless hatred that we had against one another. There are other offerings. We didn't keep Shabbat properly as a people. We violated the law. And this is very different. It says Jerusalem was destroyed because they followed the law. And the Talmud itself is so surprised that it says, well, what should they have done? Should they have followed Zoroastrian law? Is the problem the substance of the law? And Rabbi Yochanan's position is no, that was not the problem. The problem is not the substance of the law. It's that they just upheld the law rather than go lifnim meshurat hadin, rather than go inside or beyond the line or the letter of the law. So what does this mean? What does it possibly mean that we destroyed ourselves by pursuing law and order, by following, imposing, enforcing the law to its strictest letter. What should we have done instead? And remember that I told you earlier that what I drew from the first few passages that we looked at together was this notion of encounter, of the idea that mercy is unlocked in encounter. And in both of those texts, it was an encounter between someone who was asking for judgment to be rendered against him or against the person he was advocating for in a certain way, right? The cry of the people through the shofar, or Isaac advocating for Rebekah, or maybe even the Kohen Gadol advocating on behalf of all the Jewish people, saying, do it this way. Don't you want your mercy to rise up from your other attributes? But I think what's so powerful about this passage is that it tells us the kind of encounters we must have if we are to be a merciful and, I would argue, a just society. Because before we get to this notion that a civilization depends on going beyond or inside the letter of the law, we're first reviewing some other lessons, what scholars have called dependency work, actual physical encounters with people who are in need, like visiting the sick, burying the dead, acts of chesed, right? And I read this passage to be a coherent one. I read this passage to say that in order to prepare yourself to go beyond or inside the line or the letter of the law, you have to undertake these acts. This is not theoretical. You can't get it out of a book. Knowing how to use your discretion, knowing how to use your discretion in who to arrest or who to investigate or who to prosecute. You learn how to do that by these encounters, by these tactile encounters that are beyond empathy, but that are actually about seeing the suffering and the need of others. Because that's how we build our character. It's how we build our character as kids, right? This passage is about teaching our children. And it's how we build our character as individuals, as adults. And it's also how we build our character as a society. And a society that does not engage in these acts will lose its ability to enforce the law properly, to enforce the law with any sense of justice. And that's where I'd like to leave you. And I hope that as you go back to these texts yourself, in these final couple hours in which we are meant to contemplate judgment against us by God, judgment of ourselves, and get ready to go back into the world tomorrow, hopefully, to pursue justice, I would argue that law that is alienated from people, and particularly here from people who are the most in need, and law that is applied by people who are alienated from one another, is how we destroy our civilization. Shana Tova to all of you. I'm going to just peek and see if I'm getting a text, but I hope that the sound came across, and with it, the message that I hope to convey, and that this was a contribution to your work in the course of this Chag. Thank you again for having me. Gmar Chatima Tova and Shana Tova.
Tali, thank you so much for those penetrating thoughts and the most important lesson of what it means to be proximate to the people whose lives we have the capacity to shape. It's an important call, and it's one that we need to heed as we spend the last hour and a half in prayer and prepare to make our way back out into the world and consider the ways in which we will conduct our lives, the ways in which we'll conduct our relationships, the people whom we will not only see, but the people whom we will truly encounter, as you have taught us, and the ways in which we can not only speak words of mercy, but live relationships of mercy. I invite you to return to Machzor Lev Shalem, in which we will find ourselves on page 380, reviewing some of the highlights of the Mincha service as we take Tali's lessons deep within and prepare to bring them into the final gate of Yom Kippur. Page 380, Shema Kolenu. I'm going to open the ark, so if it's your custom to stand, please do. Shema Kolenu, hear our voice. Let us hear the voices of wisdom all around us, as we just did, and take the lessons in.
Shema kolenu Adonai Eloheinu chus berachem aleinu bekabel berachamim uvratzon et tefilateinu hashivenu Adonai elecha benashuva chadesh yameinu kekedem hashivenu Adonai elecha benashuva chadesh yameinu kekedem al tashlicheinu milfanecha beruach kodshecha al tikach mimenu al tashlicheinu zikna kichot kocheinu al tazmeinu
I invite you now to turn back one page to 379 for the El Melech, and an opportunity for us, after hearing words of challenge and of insight into the quality of mercy, it's only appropriate that we take a moment and we re-immerse ourselves into the divine qualities of mercy and forgiveness that we lift up today, and to consider what it would be like for us to emulate those qualities, as Tali has explained them to us. Page 379. El Melech Yoshev al Kisei Rachamim. God the Sovereign who sits on a throne of mercy. Mitnaheg b'chasidut, acting with unbounded grace. Mochel avonot amo, forgiving the sins of your people. Ma'avir rishon, rishon, one by one. Marbe mechila lachatayim, as each one comes before you, generously forgiving sinners and pardoning transgressors. Uslicha lefoshim, oseh tzedakot im kol basar varuach, lo chiratam tigmol, acting charitably with every living thing. Do not repay them for their misdeeds. El horeita lanu lomar shalosh esrei zichor lanu hayom berich shlosh esrei keodata lenav mikedem kemoshe katuv vayeret Adonai be'anan vayityatzeiv imosham vayikra b'shem Adonai Vaya'avor Adonai al panav vayikra Adonai Adonai El Rachum v'chanun Erech Apayim v'rav chesed v'emet Notzer chesed la'alafim Noseh avon v'fesha v'chata v'nakei Adonai Adonai
באמת נוצר חסד לאלפים, נושא עוון בפשע וחטא ונקה. אדוני, אדוני, אל רחום וחנון, ארך אפיים ורב חסד ואמת, נוצר חסד לאלפים, נושא עוון בפשע וחטא ונקה. וסלחת לעווננו לחטאתנו ונחלתנו. סלח לנו אבינו כי חטאנו, מחלנו מכנו כי פשענו. כי אתה אדוני טוב וסלח ורב חסד לכל קוראיך.
Page 381. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, selach lanu, mechalanu, kaber lanu,
כי אנו עמך ואתה אלוהינו, אנו בניך ואתה אבינו, אנו עבדיך ואתה אדוננו, אנו קהלך ואתה חלקנו, אנו נחלתך ואתה גורלנו, אנו צונך ואתה רוענו, אנו חרבך ואתה נוטרנו, אנו פעולתך ואתה יוצרנו, אנו רעייתך ואתה דודנו, אנו זהולתך ואתה קרובנו, אנו עמך ואתה מלכנו, אנו מאמירך ואתה מאמירנו. לי, 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 לי,
אנו עזי פנים ואתה רחום וחנון, אנו קשי עורף ואתה ערך אפיים, אנו מלאי עוון ואתה מלא רחמים, אנו ימינו כצל עובר ואתה הוא שנותיך לא יתמו. אלוהינו ולאבותינו ואמותינו, תבוא לפניך תפילתנו ואל תתעלם מתחינתנו, שאין אנחנו עזי פנים וקשי עורף לומר לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, צדיקים אנחנו ולא חטאנו. אבל אנחנו ואבותינו ואמותינו Chatanu. Page 382. As we enter the last of the full confessions before we begin Neilah.
Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu, Dibarnu Dofi. Evinu, Vehirshanu, Zadnu, Hamasnu, Tafalnu Sheker. Yatsnura, Kizavnu, Latsnu, Maradnu, Niatsnu, Sararnu, Avinu, Pashanu, Sararnu, Ishinu Orem. Rashanu, Shichatnu, Tiavnu, Tainu, Titanu.
We abuse, we betray, we are cruel, we destroy, we embitter, we falsify, we gossip, we hate, we insult, we jeer, we kill, we lie, we mock, we neglect, we oppress, we pervert, we quarrel, we rebel, we steal, we transgress, we are unkind, we are violent, we are wicked, we are extremists, we yearn to do evil, we are zealous for bad causes. We turn ahead to page 384. Al chet shachatanu lefanecha beyones uvratzon, ve'al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'imutz halev. Al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'yetzer hara, ve'al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'yodim uve'lo yodim, ve'al kulam Eloha selichot, selach lanu, mechalanu, kaper lanu. Al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'chachad ובחזק. Al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'einayim ramot, ve'al chet shachatanu lefanecha be'azut metzach, ve'al kulam Eloha selichot, selach lanu, mechal lanu, kaper lanu. Al chet shachatanu lefanecha b'frikat ol. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך, בתישום את יד. ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך, בתימהון לבב. ועל כולם אלוה סליחות, סלח לנו, מחל לנו, כפר לנו. There's a beautiful teaching by Rebbetzin Sipora Heller, who points out that the true attitude towards tshuva, towards repentance, towards going like this over and over again, is that we should be thinking not, how wicked am I because of what I did? But instead, she suggests that what we should be thinking about is, how could someone like me have done something like that? Tshuva, as we said earlier at the end of Musaf, is also an affirmation, not a rejection of who we are on the deepest level. It's also an affirmation. And that rather than define us by the lowliest of our actions, we should repudiate our sins as being unworthy of the holy souls that we actually are. On Yom Kippur, she continues to say that what we really should be doing is comparing our majestic potential to our more shabby reality. And every one of us has the potential to be spiritually magnificent, to accomplish our unique tasks in this world, to meet our challenges and to fix our shortcomings. And on the high holy days, she invites us to reflect on the perfected vision of ourselves and to cry over the mediocrity that we have permitted in its place. But our starting point and our returning point is that of our great personal potential and our joy in that. So think about it, as she invites us to. We could have been magnanimous, but instead we were petty. We could have been generous, but instead we were stingy. We could have been honest, but instead we told self-serving lies. We could have lifted others up with kind words, but instead we wounded them with deprecations. We could have esteemed our parents for their ongoing contribution to our lives. Instead, we made them feel useless and outdated. We could have made our homes sanctuaries of love and of peace, but instead we degenerated into bickering and into blaming. We could have spent some of our spare time studying the deep wisdom of the Torah or exploring Jewish philosophy or history or some other aspect of our incredible heritage, but instead we opted for Netflix. We could have become the person that the divine created us to be, and instead we settled for a mediocre imitation. I think that's a really powerful teaching and a powerful reminder to us that we have a lot to answer for today. But we answer for it not as lowly creatures, not as wicked people. We dafka have to answer it precisely because we are the opposite of that. We dafka have to answer for our mistakes because we are beings who are capable of so much better. That's the essence of tshuva. Remembering that we are capable of so much better. So we bemoan our mediocrity. But we come back at the end to where it is that we started. As beings created in the divine image, with unlimited potential to bring healing and hope to this world, to ourselves, and to one another. That is ultimately the wisdom that this day is here to teach us. And that is the wisdom that we hope that this last hour of Neilah together will take its place within our hearts and within our souls, and take its place within the commitments that we make when we leave this sanctuary and get back out into the business of life, and how close and proximate we decide to be to one another, and to give each other the chance to shine with that radiant light that each and every one of us possesses. we prepare for Neilah, for this last service, the way that we opened Kol Nidre. We will sing B'Shem Hashem, and in so doing, fulfill the words of the Zohar, all holy things require a summoning. This is a holy hour, this last hour of Yom Kippur. And we invite you to summon everything you need to take within you and to carry out with you. Whatever it might be, whomever it might be. Create this encounter, as Tali said. Come close. We summon, with the words of this song, our ancestors. We summon the angels. We summon the world around us, the earth, fire, water, and light. In your hearts, I invite you to summon all the others from whom you draw strength and comfort and inspiration.
B'Shem Adonai Elohei Israel Miyemini Michael Umismoli Gabriel Umilfanai Uriel Meachorai Raphael Ve'al Roshi Shechinatel B'Shem Adonai Elohei Israel Miyemini Sarah Umismoli Rivka Umilfanai Leah Umeachorai Rachel Ve'al Roshi Shechinatel B'Shem Adonai Elohei Israel Miyemini Yama Umismoli Lava Umilfanai Rakia Umeachorai Afara Ve'al Roshi Shechina Lai 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 ya la lai ya la lai 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 ya la lai 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 lai
Page 394 for the Ashrei. Ashrei, Yoshvei, Beitecha,
יושבי ביתך עוד יעלו חסדיך עוד יעלו חסדיך
line. ואנחנו נברך יה מעתה ועד עולם. הללויה. הללויה. ואנחנו נברך יה מעתה ועד עולם. הללויה. הללויה. Page 397, the half Kaddish before the Neilah Amidah. This is a special nusach for Neilah that I learned from Rabbi Haskell Lookstein, and it's something I look forward to every year, and that I'm proud to share with you. Yitkadal Vitkadash Shemei Rabbah Be'alma divrach chirutei V'yamlich malchutei B'chayechon Uvyomechon Uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael B'gala b'zman kariv V'imru amen Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevarach Le'olam le'olam hayah Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh V'yitadar v'yitala v'yitala Shemei dekudesha b'richu Neilah, Neilah, Mikol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechmata. Damiran b'alma v'imru amen. The Amidah for Neilah is recited quietly, beginning on page 398, facing east. I invite you to use the words in the Hebrew or the English or the words in your heart and just remind you of the changing of the liturgy in Neilah from Kotvenu, may we be written, to Chotmenu, may we be sealed in the book of life. you haven't finished your Amidah, please take the time to do so. And then join us when you're ready. Neilah means the closing, the locking of the gates. This image brings so many to Yom Kippur, to this last hour, filled with angst and tears flowing, hearts yearning for forgiveness. Some people understand the naming of this last service, the closing of the gates, to suggest that we need to hold the gates of prayer and forgiveness open so that I can make it inside before they close. And others have suggested that the naming of this service, the closing of the gates, is named such to remind us that we need to hurry up and make it back outside into the world where life really happens and not get locked in here. Because we cannot live here. We can pray and we can regret and repent here. But it's outside the gates where we need to bring all of that into the choices that we make and the actions that we take. I want to offer a different image drawn from the Eastern spiritual traditions but infused with Jewish wisdom. And that is Neilah as the gateless gate. The final passage we go through on this day of Yom Kippur, after Kol Nidre, after Shacharit, after Musaf, after Mincha, is the passage with no entrance and no exit. The passage into understanding, as I tried to convey earlier in my Dvar Torah, that in fact there is nowhere to go. That the journey only ever started and ends right here, right now, in the eternal present in which we find ourselves. That everything that we need to live the lives that we want to live is with us in this moment and in every moment. Every bit of courage, every bit of strength, every bit of compassion, every bit of mercy, every bit of insight is already embedded within us as it always has been. So the search ends now. There is no more seeking. The discovery is that all the distance that we think we have to travel can be covered with the slightest shift in our understandings of ourselves and our purpose. The purpose of our lives isn't to commune with some unknowable spirit. It's not to immerse ourselves in some demanding practice or lock ourselves up in some gilded sanctuary. It is simply, and it is grandly, to walk through the days and the nights that we have been given to live with humility, with patience, and with love. Neilah, the closing of the gates. All the other gates that we imagined, and that for some of us, we have literally spent not just the last 24 hours trying to open, but a lifetime trying to open and to enter, to be more of whom it is we thought we were capable of being. All those gates are closing now. They are of no use to us anymore. They will lead us nowhere. The only gate summoning us, the only Sha'ar summoning us, is the one that will remain open forever. It is the gateless gate, the one that beckons us to open our eyes and open our hearts to the truth that there is nowhere else to be but right here, right now, together, alone, united, or solitary. Every moment and every place you find yourself is exactly where you are supposed to be. Now go and live. Page 407, El Nora Alila. El Nora Alila, El Nora Alila, Hamte lanu mechila, Bisha'at haneila, Mete mispar keruim, Lecha ayinosim, Umisaldim bechila, Bisha'at haneila, Shofrim lecha nafsham, Bechei bisham becha chasham, Hamtzi'im mechila, Bisha'at haneila, Heye lahem lesitra, Ve'echaltem ime'era, Ve'chotmeim lehodu legila, Bisha'at haneila, Onotam ve'rachem, Bechol lochet ve'lochem, Ofsei bahem pelila, Bisha'at haneila, Zechor tzidkat avihem, Ve'chadesh et yemeihem, Kekedem utchila, Bisha'at haneila, Kirana shinat ratzon, Ve'hashev sherit hatzon, Ve'aliva ve'ohala, Bisha'at haneila, Tizku leshanim rabot, Habanim ve'habanot, Betitza u'betzohala, Bisha'at haneila. May we, your children, celebrate with joy and gladness length of days merited in this closing hour. The ark is opened as we begin the heart of the Neilah service, starting with the repetition. Page 408, the ark will remain open for the duration of the service, so if it's your custom to stand when the ark is opened, we invite you to please. Under normal circumstances, our community would have a chance over the next remaining portion of the Neilah service to make their way to the Aron Kodesh, either alone or with a loved one or family, and to have a few moments of intimacy with the Torah, to offer their heartfelt prayers in the language that speaks most powerfully, the language of their hearts. And though we can't invite you to stand in front of the Aron Kodesh with us physically, we invite you over the next remaining time of Neilah to carve out a moment or two, and either alone or together with those who surround you, to offer up what it is that is in your heart and soul in this last hour of Yom Kippur. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor ve'Hanora El Elyon Gomer Chasadim Tovim Ve'Koneh HaKol וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מסוד חכמים ונבונים, ומלמד דעת מבינים, הבטחה פי בתפילה ותחנונים, לחלות ולחנם פני מלך מלא רחמים, מוחל וסולח לעוונים. זוכרנו לחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים. זוכרנו לחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים. וחותמנו בספר החיים, למענך אלוהים חיים, למענך אלוהים חיים. מלך עוזר ופקד ומושיע מגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופך עולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדומך, מלך מימית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה. מי כמוך אב הרחמים, זוכר יצוריו לחיים ברחמים. ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי המתים. ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון לדור ודור, הללויה. ואתה קדוש, יושב תהילות ישראל אל נא. Page 410. שמענה, סלח נא היום, עבור כפנה היום, ונהלך נורא היום קדוש. ובכן ולך תעלה קדושה, כי אתה אלוהינו מלך, מוחל וסולח. פיתחו לנו שערי צדק, נבוא בם נודע. דלתך דפקנו, רחום וחנון. נא תשיבנו ריקה מלפניך. פתח לנו ולכל ישראל אחינו ואחיותינו בכל מקום. שערי אורה, שערי ברכה, שערי
Sha'arei Gila, Sha'arei Ditza.
Page 410.
Sha'arei Hoda ve'hadar Sha'arei Va'atov. Sha'arei Zechuyot, Sha'arei Chedva, Sha'arei Tahara, Sha'arei Yeshua, Sha'arei Chapara, Sha'arei Lev Tov, Sha'arei Mechila, Sha'arei Nechama, Sha'arei Selicha, Sha'arei Ezra, Sha'arei Parnasa, Shova, Sha'arei Tzedakah, Sha'arei Komemiyut, Sha'arei Refuah Shelema, Sha'arei Shalom, Sha'arei Teshuvah. Ya-na-na-na-na, 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 ya-na-na-na-na. וחותמנו בספר החיים לברכה ולקדושה, כי אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש ושעריך בקדושה ניכנס. ובהם טהרת ותוקדש, קצות שיח שרפי קודש, המקדישים את שמך בקודש, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך על הארץ כבודו, כבודו מלא עולם, משרתיו שואלים זה לזה, איי מקום כבודו, לעומתם ברוך יאמרו, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו, ממקומו הוא יפן ברחמים, ויכון עמם יחדים שמו, ערב ובוקר בכל יום תמיד, פעמיים ביבא שמע אומרים, שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. Eloheinu, Avinu, Malkeinu, Moshienu, Vehu Yashmienu, Berachamav Sheni, Le'nei kol ai, Liot lachem le'Elohim, Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adir Adirenu Adonai Adonenu, Ma'adir Shimcha b'chol haaretz. וידני למלך על כל הארץ בימיהו ידני אחד ושמו אחד ובדברי קודשך כתוב לאמור ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהיך ציון לדור ודור Hallelujah.
Page 414. The top of the page. Petach lanu sha'ar be'eit Neilah Sha'ar kifanayom hayom yifneh hashemesh yavo v'yifneh Navo she'arecha Ana elna Sana slachna Mechalna Chamalna Rachemna Kaperna Kivosh chet Ve'avon. Page 415. Vaya'avor Adonai al panav vayikra Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'Chanun, Erech Apayim v'Rav Chesed v'Yemet, Notzer Chesed la'alafim, Nosei Avon v'Fesha v'Chata'a v'Nakei, V'Salachta l'avoneinu l'chatatenu Unechaltanu, Selach lanu avinu ki chatanu, Mechalanu malkeinu ki fashanu, Ki ata Adonai, Tov v'salach, V'rav chesed, Lechol korecha. I invite you to turn to page 418. You can see on the top of the page, Lech b'simcha, echol lachmecha ushtei b'lev tov yenecha, which is the title, if you will, to a piyut written by Rabbi Moshe ibn Ezra in the 12th century in Spain for Neilah. It's included in the Italian tradition for this day, and the poem expresses the anticipated joy, as it says, on a successful Yom Kippur, on the completion of our prayers for forgiveness, and our belief that those prayers will be answered, that we will be forgiven and granted the chance to start a new year. You know, Yom Kippur, as I've tried to teach over these last 25 hours, is truly a day of great joy. Yes, there are moments of painful admission and reflection, but at the heart of Yom Kippur is that affirmation, that joy, that our tradition is a tradition of mercy. Our tradition is a tradition of forgiveness, a tradition that ennobles us to be able to own our mistakes and to move forward. There is a great, great, great joy at the heart of Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur shares that quality of joy with another moment when we're blessed to see love between two human beings made sacred. On the eve of a wedding, it is customary for the soon-to-be spouses to fast. It's customary for the spouses to wear a kittel under the chuppah. There are lots of associations, symbols of purity and of new beginnings, lots of associations between Yom Kippur and a wedding. Not that a wedding should feel like Yom Kippur, but Yom Kippur should feel like a wedding. The opposite. Yom Kippur should feel like a wedding, should feel like a new beginning, should feel like a moment where we celebrate love and tenderness and hope. Yom Kippur celebrates that new year of life, that belief in that promise of forgiveness. My late grandfather, Rabbi Mendel Lewidis, Zichrono Livracha, whose kittel I'm wearing, taught me that is the same Hebrew word for forgiveness. As we've been saying, nosei avon vafesha. That is at the heart of the root, that is at the root of the word for marriage, nisu'in. That at the heart of every relationship, a relationship of love that the tradition sees at its utmost intensity in the love between two spouses, two lifelong partners, two people who pledge to covenant themselves to one another, that at the heart of that relationship, and indeed at the heart of every relationship, should be the capacity to forgive oneself, and to forgive our partners. And because of that, when we come together in relationship, it is a time of great joy. As we come together in relationship on Yom Kippur now, it is a time of great joy. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel told us through the Talmud that today is, in fact, the happiest day of the year. And at Sha'ar, we feel it and we sing it. And in every other year at this moment, we would be gathering all of us together in the center of our sanctuary, and we would be dancing it. Just like we celebrate the union of two lovers at a wedding, so too on Yom Kippur, we celebrate the coming together, the reunification, not only of us with the divine, but of us with one another and of us within our own selves. As at a wedding, it's a mitzvah to dance and to bring joy to the couple, so here too we believe it is a mitzvah to dance and to exude joy for the inner and outer unity and oneness that we have renewed over the last 10 days of tshuva, over Rosh Hashanah and over Yom Kippur. As I said, normally our sanctuary is filled with families and friends singing and dancing their hearts out through the rest of Neilah, making our way to the shofar blast. And we feel the absence of that this year. But we will play and we will sing our hearts out to you. We will play and we will sing our hearts out with you. And we invite you, please, dance. Get up and dance and celebrate the gift that you have claimed for yourself, that was offered to you by the tradition and that you have taken hold of today. Please feel the joy that is yours to feel. And I may even dance with my bride tonight too. And you may see a few other people dancing as well through the gifts of technology today. But please enjoy these moments and lift up your soul. don't be mistaken. Even though you haven't eaten or had anything to drink for 25 hours, you got it in you. I know you do. I know you do. Well, we're not quite done. We still got a lot of juice in us. Please turn to page 420 for a rousing last Ki Anu Amecha, because we are your people and you are our God. We are each other's. Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Silach lanu, Mecha lanu, Kaper lanu, Ki anu amecha, ve'ata Eloheinu, anu vanecha, ve'ata avinu, anu avadecha, ve'ata Eloheinu, anu kehalecha, ve'ata chelkeinu, anu nachalatecha, ve'ata goraleinu, anu tzonecha, ve'ata ro'einu, anu charmecha, ve'ata notreinu, anu fiulatecha, ve'ata yotreinu, anu rayatecha, ve'ata dodeinu, anu seulatecha, ve'ata kerobeinu, anu amecha, ve'ata malkeinu, anu mamirecha, ve'ata mamireinu. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Anu azei fanim, ve'ata rachum v'chanun. Anu kshei oref, ve'ata erech apayim. Anu mlei avon, ve'ata malei rachamim. Anu yameinu kitzel over, ve'atahu shnotecha lo yitamu. Eloheinu ve'avotenu v'imotenu, tavo lefanecha tfilatenu ve'al titala mitrinatenu. She'ein anachnu azei fanim ukshei oref lomar lefanecha. Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, tzadikim anachnu v'lo chatanu. Aval anachnu v'avotenu v'imotenu chatanu. Page 421. The last Ashamnu, the last confession. It's okay. It's okay. We make mistakes. And we can fix them. And it'll be okay. Ay, 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 Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu, Dibarnu Dofi. Ay, 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 ay,
Rashanu, Sararnu, Kishinu Oref. Ay, 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 ay. Rashanu, Shihatu, Tiavnu, Tainu, Tizanu.
We abuse, we betray, we are cruel. We destroy, we embitter, we falsify. We gossip, we hate, we insult. We jeer, we kill, we lie. We mock, we neglect, we oppress. We pervert, we quarrel, we rebel. We steal, we transgress, we are unkind. We are violent, we are wicked, we are extremists. We yearn to do evil. We are zealots for bad causes. The bottom of the page, page 421. Ma'anu mechayenu, mechasenu, matzidkenu, ma'ishenu, ma'kochenu, ma'gevuratenu. Manomar lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu. Halo kol hagiborim ki ayin lefanecha v'anshei Hashem ki lo hayu. V'chachamim kivlei madav nevonim kivlei haskel. Ki rov ma'aseihem tohu v'imechayeihem hevel lefanecha. Umatar hadam min ebayim ayin. Ki havel. Turn to page 422 at the bottom of the page. Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu kadeshenu b'mitzvotecha v'tein chelkeinu b'toratecha Sabeinu mituvecha v'samechenu b'shuatecha v'taher libeinu lavdecha be'emet ki ata sachan l'Yisrael u'mechalan l'shiftei Yeshurun b'chol dor v'ador u'mibaladecha ein lanu melech mochel v'soleach ela ata. Baruch ata Adonai melech mochel v'soleach lavanotenu v'lavanot amo beit Yisrael u'ma'avir ashmotenu bechol shana v'shana. Melech al kol haaretz mekadesh Yisrael. Melech al kol haaretz mekadesh Yisrael. V'yom ha-kippurim. Turn to the middle of page 424 for the Birkat Kohanim. This last opportunity during Yom Kippur to offer words of blessing to one another. And this time, I invite you also to offer these words of blessing to yourselves. I know that may seem odd, but we are no less deserving of blessings from ourselves than we are from anybody else around us. And how important it is to take the time to articulate what it is that we wish, not just for those we care about, but for ourselves. So with that kavanah, I invite us all, page 424 in the middle of the page.
Yivarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha. Yair Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom v'yasem lecha shalom. Yivarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha. Yair Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'yasem lecha shalom ve'yasem lecha shalom ve'yasem lecha shalom.
Before we leave this moment of blessing, I offer the words of blessing that form the prayer of the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, as he emerged on the Day of Atonement from the Kodesh HaKodeshim, from the Holy of Holies. He said this: "May it be your will, Adonai, our God and God of our ancestors, to grant us, with all your people, a year of abundance, a year of blessing, a year of good fortune, a year of bountiful harvest, a year of prosperity and success, a year of assembly in your holy places, a year of song, a year of a fulfilling life, a year of dew and rain and sun, a year of sweet fruit at the harvest, a year of atonement and forgiveness for all of our sins, a year in which our bread and water are blessed, a year of rest, a year of consolation, a year of abundant joy, a year of delight, a year in which the fruit of our womb and of our earth are blessed, a year in which our going and coming are blessed, a year in which our community achieves salvation, a year in which your mercy descends upon us, a year of peace and a year of tranquility. Ve'yasem lecha shalom, ve'yasem lecha shalom, ve'yasem lecha shalom. Conclude B'Sefer HaChaim, page 424 at the bottom. B'Sefer HaChaim, bracha v'shalom, u'farnasa tova nizacher, v'nichatei lefanecha, anachnu v'chol amcha beit Yisrael, lechaim tovim u'shalom, anachnu v'chol amcha beit Yisrael, lechaim tovim u'shalom. Baruch atah Adonai Oseh Shalom.
Amen.
Avinu Malkeinu, page 425. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu Lefanecha. Repeat after me, please, the lines in the middle. Avinu Malkeinu, Hachazirenu b'tshuva shlema lefanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, Achazirenu b'tshuva shlema lefanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, shalach refuah shlema lecholei olamecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, shelach refuah shlema lecholei amecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, zochrenu b'zikaron tov lefanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, zochrenu b'zikaron tov lefanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, chatmeinu b'sefer chayim tovim.
Avinu Malkeinu, chotmenu b'sefer chayim tovim.
Avinu Malkeinu, chatmeinu b'sefer geula v'yeshua.
Avinu Malkeinu, chotmenu b'sefer geula v'yeshua.
Avinu Malkeinu, chatmeinu b'sefer parnasa v'chalkala.
Avinu Malkeinu, chotmenu b'sefer parnasa v'chalkala.
Avinu Malkeinu, chatmeinu b'sefer zichuyot.
Avinu Malkeinu, chotmenu b'sefer zichuyot.
Avinu Malkeinu, chatmeinu b'sefer silicha umechila.
Avinu Malkeinu, chotmenu b'sefer selicha umechila.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu Vaneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu Vaneinu, Ki ein banu ma'asim. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed, ve'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu Vaneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu Vaneinu, Ki ein banu ma'asim. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed, ve'hoshienu. Page 428. Ygadal v'yikadash shemei Rabba, ve'madirak yirtei v'emlich machotei b'chaychonu v'yamachonu v'chaytecho beit Yisrael, ba'agalav v'zman kariv v'yimaru, amen.
Amen.
Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach, le'olam le'omei omayai. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalei v'yitalel shmei dekudasha b'richu. Le'ila, le'ila, mikol b'chata v'shirata, jishb'chata v'nechmata, damiran be'olma v'yimaru, amen. Titkabel tzolotonu v'oton d'chayis shol kadam, avuhon v'yishmai v'yimru, amen. Yehi shlom Rabba min shemai v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'yimru, amen. Page 429, the conclusion of Yom Kippur. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem Kivod, Malchuto Leolam Eved. Baruch Shem Kivod, Malchuto Leolam Eved. Baruch Shem Kivod, Malchuto Leolam Eved. Adonai Hu Elohim. 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 Adonai Hu Elohim.
Tkiya Gedola.
Shana Tova,
Shana Tova. Shana Tova, Shana Tova. Shana Tova, Shana Tova. Shana Tova, Shana Tova. Shana Tova, Shana Tova. Shana Tova, Shana Tova. Shana Tova, Shana Tova. Shana Tova, Shana Tova. Na 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 na. Ya na 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 na. Ya na 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 na.
Shana Tova, everyone. It
Shana
is so special to have spent Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur all together. I am so grateful to you. We are all so grateful to you for being with us, for supporting us, for lifting our souls, for opening your hearts together with ours. Sha'ar at this moment is so full of energy. There is so much excitement about all that we can do together, all that lies ahead of us. Please stay close to us, stay connected, continue to shine your light with us, continue to open all of the gateways into meaningful and purposeful and joyous Jewish life together with us. Keep investing in us, keep investing in your Jewish future, keep opening your gates, and let us together open our shared gates to a proud and promising Jewish future. We're going to make Havdalah and wish you all Laila Tov.
I just want to say, I know everyone's hungry and thirsty. However, I just want to say thank you to our Rabbi, Adina Lewidis, for leading us in some of the most beautiful services I've ever been to. And while we're not together, your spirit and your love of teaching and music and melodies and prayer reaches into each and every one of our souls. So thank you. And thank you for making this High Holy Day season something that we can remember and be happy about and feel lucky that we have each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. I love you. Thank you. La 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 la. our gratitude for having made it through these 25 hours of Yom Kippur. My profound gratitude to you, Lisa Kasdan, to you, Josh Ehrlich, Jacob Coase, to everyone who made these services possible. So grateful. Thank you. Thank you to the Kadosh Baruch Hu for giving us the strength, giving us the blessings of a new year. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. Shana Tova. Thank you to our
Shana
great
Tova.
production team. Shana Tova, everyone. Shana Tova.
Shana